Deputy Spokesman of the House of Representatives and member representing Ogbadibo, Okpokwu Federal Constituency, Mr. Philip Agbese, has commended Governor Hyacinth Alia of Benue State for his leadership in ensuring the successful conduct of the APC local government primary elections across the 23 local government areas of the state. Mr. Agbese, in a statement by his special advisor on media, Lawrence Odu, made available to newsmen in Makurdi, praised Governor Alia and for providing a transparent and inclusive environment that was crucial to the peaceful and orderly conduct of the primaries. The lawmaker, who noted that the process was free and fair, further extended his gratitude to Governor Alia for prioritizing the security of party members throughout the election process. He noted that governor's coordination with security agencies played a key role in maintaining peace and order, which was essential for the success of the elections. Reacting to the assertion of the lawmaker, Governor Alia, in a statement by his chief press secretary, Teso Kula, urged the public to discountenance his claims, saying it has come to the notice of the governor and the leader of the All Progressive Congress in Benue State, Reverend Father Hyacinth Alia, that Mr. Philip Agbese has made a statement appreciating the governor and former state chairman of the APC in Benue for conducting local government and ward congresses to nominate candidates for the forthcoming local government elections in the state. It is expedient to clarify that the APC did not conduct any local government and ward primaries anywhere in Benue State. The caretaker committee of the party for Benue State, which was set up and inaugurated by His Excellency Alhaji Abdullahi Umar Ganduje-led working committee, has not yet commenced the sale of nomination and declaration of interest forms for aspirants, so there is no way any primaries would have been conducted. Governor Alia, as the leader of APC in Benue State, presided over the state executive committee meeting that ratified the suspension of the former state chairman of the party, Mr. Austin Agada, by the APC in the Ehaji ward of Ogbadibo local government area. Therefore, there is no way he will collaborate with the ex-wild member of the party for any official function of the party. The public is urged to disregard such false and mischievous statements and devious opinions. Also joining me on Open Conversation this morning is Associate Professor Emmanuel Warner. Associate Professor Emmanuel is an Associate Professor, Department of Political Science, University of Port Harcourt. Interesting. Good morning, Associate Professor.
Thank
you know why I said interesting?
Yeah.
Both of you.
Yeah, that's my colleague.
Good morning, my brother.
Coincidentally.
Yes.
Maybe that's why we were shifting the thing from Monday to Tuesday.
Probably. Very
Thank you very
interesting.
much.
Thank you. That's a very pleasant coincidence.
Exactly.
Welcome.
Thank you.
Associate Prof. Now, what is your take on this story, this interesting conversation going on right now in Benue State?
Yeah, you know, interestingly, that has become the order of the day, like my colleague was just talking about. You know, electoral malpractice has gone to a very high extent now, to the extent that people, you know, come out to make public statements, you know, that are not backed up by facts, just maybe because they want to score cheap political goal. And, you know, they are not very careful about what they say these days, provided, you know, they are going to achieve some kind of selfish interest, you know. And I was thinking that if you have a public officer or a leader, that public officer should be very, very wary of the kind of statement he puts out there for the public consumption. But unfortunately, political leaders in Nigeria, some of them, you know, are not mindful of what they put out there in the public domain. And that again explains why you have this kind of cascading, you know, belief system in the political space where people can believe all manner of things, and the trust and confidence reposed on public officers are whittled down to the extent that you hardly can believe anybody on the public space. So it's very unfortunate. Such a conflicting statement, not backed up by evidence at hand, is quite worrisome. And that explains the integrity of political leaders in this country. if you have a political leader who cannot actually give people what actually the actualities on ground, then it means that even when they come to office and begin to execute or formulate policies and programs for the interests of the people, it becomes totally something different from the welfare of the people. So you begin to have a situation where the public, Nigerian citizens, may no longer believe their political leaders. And if that belief and trust, are no longer there, it means that the confidence reposed on them has been thrown to the dustbin. And if the confidence is not there, the problem of legitimacy arises, in terms of trying to actually legitimate a particular government. So it's a very, very worrisome situation in Nigeria. I mean, this Benue case is really very worrisome because if you have a situation where the national chairman of the party has not even inaugurated or given them go-ahead to conduct primaries, and somebody is already praising the governor for doing that. And I don't think the governor himself has not even taken the credit to say, okay, we did such a thing, and this is the outcome of what we have done. So it becomes very, very worrisome. In governance, what is important is that there should be that kind of trust and belief system on public officers. If the people do not have that belief and trust on public officers, then good governance will become a mirage. Because what that means is that what the leaders put out there in the public domain may not be the actualities on ground. So it follows that such people, such leaders, their policies and programs may not actually reflect the realities, the felt needs of the people. And if that happens, then it means that good governance will continue to lead us. And the essence of democracy really is to ensure that the general will of the people prevail through actualizing their felt needs, which finds expression in the policies and programs they formulate and implement.
All right. Dr. Nelson, what is your take on this story?
It's very strange, very, very strange. But I want to imagine that the honorable member is not a madman. Mm-hmm. So there must be some kind of intention to this kind of charade. Mm-hmm. And the first thing that comes to mind is to say, okay, maybe there's a possibility that they want to hijack the system from the governor. Because if the governor is not strong enough to put his legs on the ground, then a list can appear tomorrow and they say, oh, these are the members that have won all the primaries in all the wards and local governments, and the governor will now be the one fighting from behind. And if such a scheme can be devised against a sitting governor in a state, in a democracy, for something that did not happen at all, then you begin to imagine or wonder the kind of politicians we have and how desperate they are to stay afloat or to win power. It's really very serious. On the other hand, given that this kind of thing, if it is a lie, I want to see a situation where the leadership of the National Assembly, where this honorable member should be able to call him to order. I want to also see a situation where the party itself, at the national, should call him to order. Probably make him apologize and take back that. Because it's a very serious one. You cannot just get up and throw such heavy, weighty lies to the public. Then you can wake up tomorrow and tell us that the governor is dead. You can wake up tomorrow and say the president has been assassinated. And coming from the mouth of a sitting elected representative, a lot of people will believe you. And then you're sowing chaos, you're sowing confusion in the polity. It's a serious matter. And the leadership of the party should address that. It should not be allowed to just simmer like that. It's serious.
When you say the leader, you mentioned the leadership of the party.
And the leadership of the National Assembly,
the leadership of the National Assembly,
yes,
calling the lawmaker to order.
Yes.
Do you see that even playing out? Because when you look at it critically, at all levels, politics is going on. At all levels, people have different allegiances. You understand? So probably the interest of the party at the national level is not serving his own interests.
Yes, but even among criminals, there is honor. You know, among criminals, there is one they say they give the money to keep.
Is there honor among politicians in Nigeria?
No, there should be. There should be.
Ideally, there should be.
Ideally, yes, there should be.
Realistically, is there?
No, even in Nigeria, there should be. There should be red lines where people don't cross. You should wait to do your campaigns, find out, but to lie completely in this manner that the primaries have been conducted and you're now congratulating the governor who did not come. I mean, it's so strange.
For collaborating
It's
with
the height of manipulation. It's so strange.
All right. Now, with what is playing out right now in Benue State and, you know, the moves by the APC National Working Committee to ensure that, to a large extent, there is peace in Benue State. You recall that a caretaker committee has been inaugurated by the National, and they said they should be given a window of 90 days to ensure, to make peace, you know, among stakeholders. And even the National as well also held their own meeting and invited them to have talks with them, the people on Akume's camp and the others. But with this development coming up, with all the efforts being made by the APC National Working Committee, do you see peace happening in Benue State? And do you see these politicians actually setting aside their personal interests for the interest of the party?
Peace is still possible. You know, it is very easy to destroy. It's easier to create confusion than to build. That's why I'm advocating that the party should do something quickly. And maybe all this is also designed to create more confusion and then create crisis of confidence among the leadership, in the party, state and national. That's why they have to do something urgently to rein that back and restore confidence in the minds of the people and the party members.
All right. Associate Prof, you spoke about the trust factor in relationship between politicians and between the rulers and the citizens and all of that. Now, for a party to have internal crisis to a point that the party has been utterly balkanized, you can agree with me that the trust factor does not even come to play at all. Now, in a situation like this, where both parties or all the parties in this instance are unwilling to sheath their swords, what is the way forward?
Well, I think that the way forward is for us to also begin to look at what actually led to the problem. We need to have very holistic analysis of the problem and identify the problem. We were told that if you identify a problem, that problem is half solved. And for me, I think that the possible thing is that it's a situation where there is unregulated conflict of interest. Ideally, normally under normal circumstances, because of the fact that it has been approved that no two human beings are exactly the same. So we expect conflict of interest. But then, in a civilized society, where you have rules and regulations, which I think the party also has, it is expected that the general will of the members of the party should transcend over and above that of individual interest. So individuals should find a way of queuing into the general will of the general members of the party. But in a situation where you have the curtained internal democracy in the party, where few persons will want to lord it over other members of the party. And then you have a situation where, it's all about godfathers wanting to also project their own personal interests. So you find a situation where that will begin to be the order of the day. And of course, the resultant effect will be coerced. So what we need to do, as party members, is to ensure that, we have our rules and regulations, which we have made for ourselves. So we should be able to also observe those rules and demonstrate them within the context of the party. Because if you allow individual interests, opinions to prevail over that of the political party without regulation, we'll continue to have this kind of problem where, conflict of interest, which may degenerate, if unchecked, to this kind of chaos and anarchy in political parties. So we should be able to know as human beings that without laws, without regulations, you expect that naturally human beings will begin to behave, according to their whims and caprices. And that's what is playing out in political parties. So obviously,
political parties have laws associated.
Yeah, they have rules.
Even Nigeria
that's what I'm
has
saying
a constitution.
Now. That's what I'm saying.
How is it being respected?
That's what
How
I'm
is
saying.
it being implemented?
We are talking about human beings. Well, I mean, there are also other clients where at least you have relative stability in their political parties or in their polity. That is because they have learned how to obey. Civilization has taken over such societies. But unfortunately in Nigeria here, we don't seem to, subject ourselves to the rules we have made. So there is flagrant violation of rules and regulation. And that is also because you don't have strong institutions. We have here strong men and women who want to lord it over other people, regardless of what the laws are saying. So
isn't the law to be faulted in this instance? Because when you say strong institutions, it's still the law that will empower these institutions to be strong. But the law, to some extent or to a large extent, has been designed to weaken the institution, is actually supposed to protect and make strong. Let me give you an instance. Okay. Let's look at how the judiciary is even independent, the extent of their independence. You will agree that the agency can only recommend. It is the executive that appoints. So if the executive can appoint, it means the executive can fire. Right. Now, what it means at the end of the day is that the executive will only appoint the people that will dance to their tune. Have you ever seen, even at the state level, that is why it is easy for state governments to run to state high courts to shop for orders and judgments.
Yeah.
And also avoid federal high court, even if that matter falls within the jurisdiction of the federal high court. And that is why, to a large extent, when Dr. Nelson was speaking earlier, in the earlier conversation, he said that the presidential election was a sham. Well, he's saying it's a sham, but do not forget that the evidences were brought to the judiciary, up to the Supreme Court. What happened? So how independent are these institutions, so to speak? So when we are advocating for strong institutions against strong men, probably we should look at the fundamental problem. What actually led to these institutions being weak?
Yeah, you recall that in Nigeria, if you go down the memory lane, looking at the political history, you realize the fact that our political leaders who took over a mantle of leadership for the colonial masters actually were obsessed with the primitive accumulation mentality, where they saw the states and its institutions as means of enriching themselves. And that has been handed over down up to the present crop of leaders in Nigeria. So that there is no serious disconnect between post-colonial Nigeria and colonial Nigeria. So they have the same mentality. And if you have that same mentality, what it means that the political governable space will be a kind of be a situation where it is characterized by conflict, because everybody will want to have a space in that political governing space, not because they want to actually serve the people in the real sense of the word, but because they have their own personal interests. Okay. Now, you also consider the fact that, ideally you have the theory of separation of power, followed by checks and balances. We have seen a situation where, these things are being relegated to the background. Again, because of the fact that leaders are not just out there to serve the interests of the people, but for their own personal interests. So they devise all kinds of things. Like we said earlier, that this thing has been graduating from one level to the another level to this, up to this extent that you just mentioned. That, judiciary has become Father Christmas. You can give anybody any gift at any time. Governors will go to high court where they have caged judicial personnel to give them favorable judgment, which is not what is supposed to be. Ideally, you have checks and balances. Even when you talk about executive appointing people, by right, under normal circumstances, within the precepts of checks and balances, those nominees should also be sent to the National Assembly, assuming and believing that National Assembly is also independent. So they have the political power to say, well...
It's National Assembly, particularly the 10th Assembly, from their actions and their inactions. Can you say they are independent?
No, I'm just trying to I'm just trying to say that I'm just saying that, you know, when you say independence, I'm just saying that under normal circumstances, these three organs of government are expected to be independent, right? You know, manifesting this principle of checks and balances. But what we have seen really, ideally, I mean, in the real context of it, is the fact that, you know, because of these interests, parochial and selfish interests, a lot of these things are manipulated, you know, to suit their personal interests. So you have all kinds of manipulations here and there. You know, you have a situation where the executive has, you know, put the judiciary in their pocket, and then even the legislature, to the extent that, you know, a sitting president or senate president will say, well, we'll do anything that comes from the president, not minding the fact that you are acting as a watchdog. So if you begin to accept and deliberate on anything that comes from the executive arm of the government, then where's the education for checks and balances? So you find a situation where it's a kind of, you know, a projection of personal interest that has led to these manipulations, judiciary speaking from both sides of his mouth. Governors can go to state high court, the other people can go to federal high courts and get judgment, conflicting judgment. The bottom line, of course, is that they are not doing all this because they have the interest of people at heart.
You're right.
They are doing all this because they want to satisfy their personal and selfish interests.
Okay.